Hello and welcome to today's video where we're looking at Rule 6, Safe Speed. As always, we're going to look at the rule itself and then I'm going to use some diagrams to help explain it in a little more detail. So Rule 6, Safe Speed. This rule can actually just be summarised in this first paragraph alone. Every vessel shall, at all times, proceed at a safe speed so that she can take proper and effective action to avoid collision and be stopped within a distance appropriate to the prevailing circumstances and conditions. Okay, so if you just apply this first paragraph, you are complying with Rule 6. The rest of the rule simply goes on to give some examples of things you need to consider when deciding your safe speed. In determining a safe speed, the following factors shall be among those taken into account. So these aren't all the factors you need to take into account, but these are among the ones that you must. First part applies to all vessels. The state of visibility. Of course, in clear visibility, you can see quite a long way away. In this case, 6 miles. But when that visibility reduces, you can no longer see the vessel that is that far away. They need to get a lot closer before you'd be able to see them. In this case, 3 miles. Now, seeing a vessel at 6 miles is very different to seeing them at 3 miles. You still need to be able to take time to assess the risk of collision and to take action to avoid collision. So the visibility is going to have a major effect on what you determine to be safe speed for your vessel. The traffic density, including concentrations of fishing vessels or any other vessels. The speed that you consider safe is going to be very different if you're in this open sea situation compared to if there's other vessels around you. And equally, if there's even more vessels around you, again that's going to affect your judgment of what a safe speed should be. The manoeuvrability of the vessel, with special reference to stopping distance and turning ability in the prevailing conditions. Fairly obviously, if you're on a supertanker that's going to take 3 miles to stop, you're going to want to be travelling slower than if you're on a high-speed ferry that can pull up within its own length. These are all going to affect your decision on what a safe speed is. At night, the presence of background light, such as from shore lights or from backscatter of her own lights. This kind of comes back to point 1, the state of visibility, because all these are going to do is affect at what range you can see another vessel, be able to take action to avoid collision. Of course, your speed is going to have a direct impact on the amount of time you've got to take action. The state of the wind, sea and current, and the proximity of navigational hazards. If you're in a heavy sea, you're going to want to be slower just to be able to keep your vessel safe and avoid damage. If you're travelling along and you're experiencing strong wind or strong current, obviously you're going to be setting away from that wind or current. It's going to be pushing you sideways. The speed is going to have a direct impact on how much you set. In this second example, where I've halved the speed, the vessel is still going to set at the same rate sideways, but because she's making a lot less headway, she's actually going to appear to be travelling at a far greater angle sideways than she would have been if she had been travelling faster. This is probably quite a good example of how a slower speed is not necessarily always the safest speed. Coming back, if she was wanting to counter that, and she's going to put an angle of helm on so that she can steam in a straight line over the ground, again, her speed is going to have an impact of what sort of angle she's got to make. You can see that the swept path is very large in this instance. She's in a narrow channel, her speed is maybe not safe. And the draft in relation to the available depth of water, and here we're talking about squat and interaction. Speed has a direct impact on these. I think it's a squared impact, so reduce your speed, you reduce the effect of squat and interaction. The next part goes on to talk about vessels with operational radars. Characteristics, efficiency and limitations of the radar equipment. So we're talking about the physical properties here. How high is it mounted? If you've got an X-band and S-band, if you've got a long pulse, short pulse, what's the resolution like? Will it detect targets? You know this by using the equipment. Obviously, if there's limitations in that equipment, that's got to affect your judgment of safe speed. Any constraints imposed by the radar range scale in use. Maybe the white vessel is on a small range because they're navigating close to shore. They wouldn't detect the other vessel. If they're on a larger range, of course they would pick up that other vessel. This is going to have an effect on the speed you deem to be safe. The effect on radar detection of sea state, weather, and other sources of interference. So these are things that are going to clutter up the screen and obscure other vessels and make it harder to detect other people. Possibility that small vessels, ice, and other floating objects may not be detected by radar at an adequate range. This isn't something you can control, this is more just reminding you, yes, you've got a radar, but not everything is going to show up on it. Speed still needs to allow you to take action if you see something else that you haven't picked up by radar. The number, location, and movement of vessels detected by radar. This goes back to the traffic that we discussed in the first paragraph. If you've got more vessels, of course you're going to want a slower speed so you can take action. And the more exact assessment of the visibility that may be possible when radar is used to determine the range of vessels or other objects in the vicinity. This again goes back to the first paragraph where we're using the visibility to determine a safe speed. You can use your radar to get an exact reading of that, and that is going to affect your judgment. And that brings us to the end of Rule 6. We've seen some of the factors that you need to take into account when determining safe speed. And remember, if you're the officer or the master, not only are you using these factors, you've got to use every factor available to you to determine what speed is safe for you to be travelling at a particular time. Hopefully you found the information in this video useful. If you have, a thumbs up is always appreciated. If you've got any questions, leave them in the comments below. And if you want to keep up to date with all my videos, hit that subscribe button. Until next time, thank you for watching, and goodbye.